augmented reality, virtual reality, condition-based monitoring, or precision monitoring on control. The key of success of all this specific application is how to handle big data in a very fast and efficient way. Therefore, edge computing is the fundament of all these applications. Learn more through our webinar today from our specialist. And I wish you a very pleasant webinar. And I'd like to hand over now the microphone to Alejandra and wish you a nice day. Many thanks.
Thank you so much, Martin. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, because maybe someone else is joining us from the other side of the world. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce you to who we are as a chamber and what we offer to our members. For that, I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. So if you can give me a confirmation, if you can see my screen, that would be great. Can you see it now? Federico, can you see my screen? Just to be sure.
Can. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Can.
We are a registered NGO, and we started as a chamber in 2015 here in Europe. Our mission is that technology obliges, and we actually believe that we are able to accomplish that mission through three major goals: that is the competitiveness, the growth, and the sustainability. So as you can see here, it's not just about the business opportunities, it's more about how you can make a difference through them, how we can make this world a better place. Now, regarding our structure, we have three different approaches. The first one is through the regional alliances. So what we aim to do is to understand how different aspects make those business opportunities quite different in that specific place, if maybe you compare it with another one. Think about maybe doing business in China or doing business in Brazil or maybe doing it in Senegal. We wanted to give you that closer approach of that territory, provide you the opportunity to learn about the culture, but more than that is to understand how you can be successful in those markets. So this is one of our approaches. The second type of areas, let's say, is the impact alliances. As I told you before at the beginning, we try to make a difference in this world, and we do that through these impact alliances. Indeed, if you think about climate action, it's more how we can join forces in order to work together to mitigate the footprint that we're causing on the environment. Or let's think about the women in tech. It's about inclusiveness. It's about understanding how we can empower women to continue doing really great work in different fields and industries. And the third focus that we have inside the structure is the tech alliances. And here we actually get deeper. It's more about the industry, it's more about the sector. As you can see, we have smart cities, we have environment, we have mobility, and we have more that I will be happy to provide you more information, but today is not the case. If you would like to approach Federico or me, we will be happy to guide you a little bit more inside our structure. Now, regarding what we offer, we are a chamber of that is not offering services really. What we offer is tools and programs. And what we try to do through them is to understand how we can help you with your needs. So it's to try to find that right fit through all the tools and programs and help you to take the potential of your business even further. Now, of course, as a chamber, we believe that networking is very, very important. You need to understand who will be that right partner. And that right partner could be a professional, maybe it could be another company, maybe it could be a public entity, who knows? So for that is that we have more than 300 and it's like 600 events that we do during the year. Some of them are online, some other are offline. We actually enjoy to have this experience in person, but as you can imagine, after the pandemic, we haven't been able to do that. But hopefully, we're going to be hosting these events again very, very soon. So we will keep you updated so that you can join us and participate in those big expos and summits, because it's amazing how you can share different talks, ideas, and how you can actually create new projects and initiatives with people that are coming from different parts of the world and from different industries and sectors. Now, I was telling you, networking is very important for us. And it's not only about the online events as well. We have a platform that helps us to connect with the right people. And if you have a look to the platform, you will see that we have an agenda with different activities that we're doing through all the areas that we have inside the chamber, so that you actually will be able to join those in which you will be interested. So just have a look to the platform, have a look to the website. You will find all the upcoming events, not only for the Advanced Manufacturing Alliance, but as well from the other areas that we have inside the chamber. And in here, you can see some of the testimonies of those that have been working with us, collaborating with us. Once again, I want to tell you that is how we can join forces and we can work together to do something disruptive. So just have a look. You will see that many things have been happening during the last years and many things we can do together. So just approach us. We will be happy to provide you more information. So have a look to our website, have a look to our platform. I'm sure that you will find more information about our vision, activities, and programs. And once again, feel free to reach anyone from our team, because we will be very happy to guide you inside the chamber. And yes, this is everything from my side. So for now, I just would like to wish you a very interesting conversation, very successful webinar. And thank you, Federico. The microphone is yours.
Thank you, Alejandra. Let me try, first of all, to all of you, sorry for my funny voice. I have been having a, let's say, a virus or something like that in my throat in the last days. So my voice from time to time maybe will not sound so normal, but well, I am trying my best. I also will try to share with all of you our video, the video of the manufacturing, the Advanced Manufacturing Alliance. And let me see if I can find it here. I think should be, see if it's here. I cannot see it. Let me see. Well, no, I cannot see it. So I'm sorry, I cannot share it with you, but hopefully the next time we will be able to. So again, thank you, Alejandra, for a great UTech Chamber presentation. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today in this UTech Manufacturing Alliance digital event. We are sure it will be very interesting for all of you to have a better understanding of a great topic such as how edge computing will impulse manufacturing industry. I invite you all to share with us your questions about this topic. You can write them at the chat of this meeting room. Later, I will pick up some to ask them to our panelists. Please don't wait until the end of the panel to send your questions. You can do it anytime, starting now. Today, we are honored with the presence of 4 great panelists, all of them with huge experience in edge computing and also in manufacturing industry. I am sure they will offer us different points of view about today's topic, sharing with us a great vision about it. Please let me introduce you Plamen Kiratyev, with more than 27 years of IT experience, 9 of them as IBM Chief Architect and CTO Industry 4.0. The solution architects team at German Edge Cloud, led by Plamen, ensures the sustainable realization of digitalization in manufacturing. Plamen's focus is on introducing the shop floor IT for the next decade, based on technologies such as factory edge, hybrid, cloud, and AI in the context of existing manufacturing practices. Our second panelist is Jochen Moa, with more than 20 years with HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and currently holds a position as lead solution architect within the edge practice of the DACH area of HPE. He is an experienced consultant with a broad range of IT domains and knowledge, including Industry 4.0, hybrid IT infrastructure, big data, AI, and analytics, Internet of the Things, security, IT service management, and digital retail. He also delivers strategic advisory services and consults customers on global rollouts and bimodal IT operations. Jochen began his career as a Windows third-level support and project engineer in the area of SAP outsourcing. In 2010, he moved to HPE's consulting organization, where he successfully delivered many projects and led various global pursuits as a solution architect. Johan's recent engagement as lead solution architect at the development of the HPE Distributed Industrial Cloud and the data-centric architecture for manufacturing. Today, also joins us Ido Gur, a skilled entrepreneur and angel investor with numerous successful exits over the years. Has more than 20 years of extensive senior management experience in different industries, including telecommunications, mobile communications, marketing platforms, augmented reality, and more. He has previously served as CEO of Gansco, CEO and president of Vocaltech, and EVP Global Sales and Marketing of ECI Telecom. Ido holds an MSc in physics from Tel Aviv University in Israel. Last but not least, please let me introduce you Andy Jones, a pioneer of edge computing. A former technology executive at Vodafone Group, he has spent more than a decade consulting, advising, and building ecosystems spanning 5G networks, multi-access edge computing, and AI enablement of Industry 4.0. Andy has chaired the MEC Congress every year since it began. In fact, the EDGE event. He was an advisor to the Telecom Infra Project and a member of the steering group for the UK Telecoms Lab, a government initiative to foster telecom supply chain diversification. Andy is a fellow of the Institution of Engineering and Technology. So after this brief, a really impressive introduction, let's start with the panel, and we are going to start with Plamen. Plamen, good morning. On-premise cloud edge, are we turning around in a circle?
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the invitation. Yes, indeed, somebody can say we are turning from on-premise to cloud and then back to edge, but effectively we are moving around the spiral. So with edge, we are coming at one level above, which is on-premise computing, but applying cloud practices like the hyperscalers. And this is very important, especially for manufacturing. All we know is that even if cloud is so easy to use and easy to do innovation, it is a little bit far away in terms of latency, in terms of safety, security, regulation, but also sometimes cost, in terms of cost of sending short living data for analysis and then using this transfer period. So in this case, I would say, especially for the manufacturing, having an edge in the factory, say factory edge, is a key enabler for manufacturing and enables digitization and fosters this 10 years after announcing the Industry 4.0 initiative.
Sorry, I was not able to, let's say, unmute myself. Thank you, Plamen. Of course, I don't need to remind all of you guys to intervene whenever you want, to add your comments or to discuss a little bit in whatever the questions I am asking to the rest of the people. Let's continue with a question for Johan. Johan, good morning. What level of maturity of edge computing regarding Industry 4.0 projects do you see today?
Yeah, good morning to everybody. I agree with Plamen that we seen this tremendous shift towards the edge, because throughout the last years, I've seen many customers that already stated they have completed their Industry 4.0 journey to the edge, right, and implemented a lot of projects. But if you started to have a closer look and you see all those demonstration use cases, you very often see that this was only a POC or a pilot run by a small team or group. So that's at least my observation. And there are very few leaders who actually industrialized their way to the edge already. So made it scalable, make it global, applied it to multiple production sites and applied a real production use. So I would see the maturity of the edge computing, as you asked, still in the beginning for most customers. There are very few customers that haven't looked at it at all. I would say most of them are still in a pilot phase or POC phase, but we are seeing a trend towards larger global rollouts currently. And we are seeing the first RFPs in the market for global rollouts. So it's now the phase of scaling and industrializing edge computing.
Thank you, Jochen. Next question is for Ido. Ido, good morning. What are the benefits of using edge computing for Industry 4.0 factories?
Good morning, and thank you everybody for being here with us. I forgot to mention in my bio that I'm also the CEO of Saguna Networks, which is a company belong to Consorven, and we actually design and deliver edge computing product. Now, regarding to your question, the factory will gain a local cloud system that improve its computing efficiency. This is first of all. In addition, having all the applications installed locally will improve latency and safety, and security will be enhanced as well. Another significant consideration is the inherent reliability. Without edge computing on the regular path, all the traffic goes from the user/IoT device to the antenna, to the aggregation point, mobile core, internet, cloud, and all the way back. Okay, this is a very long way with a lot of point of failures. With edge computing, the relevant traffic will be terminated locally using application that the factory requires. This is much shorter loop with much higher reliability. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question is for Andy. Andy, good morning. Why does Industry 4.0 need 5G and edge computing?
Thank you, Federico, and good morning, everyone. So coming from a background of building mobile networks in various markets while at Vodafone for 20 years, the 5G vision was always to provide more than just speed for the smartphone user. It was to be an enabler for different vertical industries. And the promise of 5G includes low latency within the requirements of industrial control processes. But it's not just about a new radio technology. It's a new architecture. You cannot reduce the latency, as Ido was suggesting, down from 100 milliseconds to cloud and back without moving the servers responsible for those industrial processes closer to the machines. So it is a little bit like we're turning into another cycle in that cloud edge swing of the pendulum, but in fact it's a hybrid. So there's a huge benefit of having a local and cloud-based approach combined, so that the actual processes themselves requiring low latency are deployed on premise for a customer, and what can be back-end models for AI and other uses of kind of more of an offline or near real time, or even not so real time processing are deployed into the cloud. So it's that hybrid mix. And 5G brings the promise of bringing reliable and secure wireless connectivity into those factories.
Thank you, Andy. From whatever any of you say right now, anyone want to say, add something else, want to ask, want to discuss? Jochen, please.
I would absolutely agree with Andy. It's about the hybrid approach, right? It's not like the pure pendulum that we are seeing, and you have to decide where you want to go, because you don't want to choose if you want to go to the cloud and have all the advantages there, or you need to stay at the edge. You want to have both, right? You need to be at the edge, because especially in manufacturing, most of the relevant critical data is actually produced at this production edge. So you need to be there to capture this data, and then you might decide which data you want to transfer to central locations, being it your traditional data center, being at the near edge, being at the public cloud. And on the other side, you might decide to keep some data local, like we heard, for latency issues, for cost issues as well, because you don't want to transport all this data around. And we're also seeing that that customers are afraid still to use the public cloud. So you need to work around that one. So you really have to have a solution working from edge to core to cloud, being able to handle your data and have, despite this, a cloud experience everywhere, because that's what customers are looking today, right?
Thank you, Jochen. Well, even though let's say the agenda of this webinar is having the last 10, 15 minutes for questions of the audience, I have to say that we can mix our questions with the questions of the audience, and in this case will be even more interesting. For example, Radoslav is asking, for the last 5 years, you have been, experts have been convincing us to go to the cloud. Now you're back to edge, on-premise. So is the cloud a bad thing? Maybe a hybrid solution is the best solution, where a low latency is needed edge, and what requires high computing power and not necessarily fast in the cloud. Any one of you want to say anything about that? Any comment?
Yeah, I think it's a good statement, and I think I will never say that the public cloud will disappear. Certainly has a very good position and will stay there long time, for a long time. I agree to the statement, and I would add, it's not only the issue of latency, it's also the issue of reliability, and it's also the issue of bandwidth, that in some cases the edge computing is better than the public cloud.
Maybe I could add also something. It is not cloud against edge. It is edge with cloud. And as Jochen said, of course, this is a hybrid play. If you think about the years at the beginning of the Industry 4.0, everybody started to treat everything with cloud measures. And this is, of course, completely wrong. If you try to really implement manufacturing use cases exclusively from the cloud, then just the distance. Don't speaking about security concerns, don't speaking about regulation, don't speaking about safety, don't speaking about costs of transferring data. But of course, you have with cloud something where it lowers the thresholds, the threshold of starting building something. And this is same with the edge. And it is not a matter of what to prefer. It is a matter how to balance them, where to put workload, which is running, has to run very closely to the manufacturing floor, but also valid also for other industries, and how to use optimal the broad cloud in order to increase the innovation. So it is definitely a play together.
I agree with that. I think there's also something which is less obvious but really important, and that is the leveraging cloud standards and architectures and technologies to speed up the adoption and deployment of convergence of IT and OT in the manufacturing sector. We have seen parallel industries or different verticals implementing their own proprietary standards over the years, and what we now have, even if you look at cloud, it's been a 10-year journey from the initial concepts to something you can purchase at a click of a button from Amazon, Microsoft, IBM, or Google. So what's available now is that those mature platforms can be leveraged, not only far away in a public cloud data center, but bringing those same technologies, enabling technologies on-prem into this hybrid model. So the use of Kubernetes is a great example. It's a mix of kind of open source and commercialization on top, and that just will speed up the adoption curve dramatically within different industries, including manufacturing.
Thank you, guys. Let's continue with our questions. Plamen, a common belief is that innovation comes from the cloud. How does Factory Edge foster innovation in the shop floor?
Yes, we actually heard about this in the previous discussion from the other participants as well. Cloud lowers the threshold of usage. So you don't need to install anything. You have all the tools. You can just start doing it. And with Edge, it is the same by applying the cloud practices for deployment. So all these tools are there. Let me explain a little bit what I and we also from German Edge Cloud understand under the term Factory Edge. So what is needed in order to have a use case in an edge? First, of course, you have infrastructure. And of course, in modern terms, nowadays, this is infrastructure as a service. It could be appliance, it could be the data center in manufacturing, in the factory. It could be also cloud, it could be a MAC, multi-access edge computing center. On the other hand, the typical workloads are containerized or virtualized, virtual machines. So you have to cover this also in this environment. This is the next layer. Above this layer, there you need some Lego puzzles for doing your as a base for your platform, so-called platform as a service. This is exactly the same also in cloud. Platform as a service has some base services like data storage, security, user management, device management, and so on. And on top of it, it is important to have also some kind of low-code programming and especially integration. Integration here, very important, OT-IT integration, because these two words have been disjunct maybe until 10 years ago. And finally, you need a kind of SAS layer, let's say providing the data models typical for manufacturing to depict your shop floor, to show your hierarchy of equipment, your production orders, your production process, available very fine granular services so that you can do the production apps based on this, and of course do the visualization, machine learning up to AI. So our crown jewel at German Edge Cloud is exactly this upper level. We provide the on-site industrial suite, providing exactly these models, data models for the shop floor, offered via microservices, offered on very modern architecture, based on 300 plus man years experience from manufacturing. And this is something which allows you also to build your own production apps, but on the other hand, also provides you with the abilities and tools to do analytics, visualization, and AI. And of course, providing some models with typical OEE calculations or track and trace, or even a gaming framework-based virtual factory, meanwhile. But if we provide only this is actually our product. This is not enough, because the first question will be how to run it, how to administer it, how to manage it. That's why we provide below it the required platform as a service platform based on OpenShift. Andy mentioned, I think, Kubernetes, based on OpenShift. So we directly consume the whole base platform from it, and of course provide different options for OT IT integration from IBM, for SharePass, from Soft Project, and so on. These are partner elements which we can offer. And down infrastructure, it could be different sizes of appliances. We call it on-site appliances. And of course, it could run also in the data center. So in this case, providing the logic above it for playing and doing the production apps and all requirements below it, this is a solution which you can actually deliver and run it. For example, our first try was 2 years ago in our sister company, Rito, maybe you know it, in the Freehim Law Group. And our hypothesis was, and we proved it, that within 20 days we can apply track and trace by collecting SAP order data and put it on the production line. And this production line was really digitized with this use case within 20 days. A little bit longer days, of course, for the first, but it was done.
Thank you, Plamen. Next question for Jochen. Jochen, where do you see the benefits of edge computing in manufacturing?
I think the main benefit is really getting access to these huge amounts of data that you are creating in your production sites, and then getting the value out of this data. This is really the benefit, because you have a lot of production machines there producing data today, but most of the data is not analyzed or accessed for any of the use cases, being it OEE optimization, predictive maintenance, or other simpler use cases that you might get access to. So that's the main benefit. If you apply edge computing, you can connect to this data, you get real-time insights in your production, and are able to adapt faster and speed up innovation there with your data. I think that's the main benefit.
Thank you, Jochen. Ido, can you explain the different types of edge computing that are relevant to Industry 4.0?
Yes. So first of all, there are many variants, but I will mention the main three groups. First of all, I would like to speak about the private local network, so-called. It can be LTE, it can be 5G. And in this case, it is a complete 4G or 5G network, is installed on customer premises in the factory and the plant. And this includes actually the antenna, whether it is a G.B or RUs, it includes the core and the hardware, a complete solution, of course, also the smaller orchestration to manage this solution. It serves like an island of communication and can have connection to the outside world only if it is specified. So this is one type solution, and in some of the cases it is relevant. Another type of solution, group of solution, I would say, is edge cloud solution. Edge cloud, it means that you create a local virtualization computing solution, which is a local cloud platform. You can install your application on it, connect to user, and use it. But this usually will not appropriate the mobile, because the mobile traffic will go to the core and go back. So in this case, the mobile will suffer from high latency and low reliability, and has an issue related to the MNO, has some issues with the bandwidth challenge. The third type of group of solution is the mobile edge computing. The mobile edge computing, it's actually a combination of local cloud, but also with local breakout of the mobile. So the mobile traffic will also terminate locally. So this is, having said that, the core still will be with the service provider, well, in some cases the MNO. So this is like the best of all world solution. The edge is close to the customer, while the core is in the same central core of the mobile. And so it offers low latency and high reliability, high bandwidth, and the lowest footprint and the best total cost of ownership.
Thank you, Ido. Let's continue with another question for Andy. Andy, which 5G technology is better suited for manufacturing? 5G private network or network slicing?
Okay, so this is not just a technology question, it's very much a business question. The slicing is a concept which allows a public mobile network operator to divide the resources in its network between different categories of customer with different needs. So the consumer versus enterprise, and then different needs of different vertical industries on the enterprise side. However, no amount of slicing can guarantee coverage and capacity deep inside factories. So there is a role for specific deployments on premise with small cells deployed inside to provide and guarantee that coverage and capacity. So I believe that there is a role for both, but I think right now the focus is more on private network deployments. They're the must-have. I think that can be then augmented by a kind of a macro coverage from the mobile operator surrounding that factory. That can be extremely helpful for almost like a campus in the manufacturing space, where you've got outdoor spaces between buildings that you also want to have covered. And that's where edge computing from a telco comes into play, deployed at the edge of the macro network, the outdoor network of the mobile network operator, and then linked to a kind of a secure virtual private network that spans that slice that the MNO is giving you as a manufacturer with your own private network that you've deployed on premise. So I do see a hybrid here as well, in a different sense of the word hybrid. But I think that most of the focus right now is on mobile private networks for manufacturing.
Radoslav from the audience also asked, can 5G change the game? It's a short question, but direct.
Well, 5G is obviously bringing a wireless promise and bringing a secure and predictable wireless offering. So that needs to be judged by industry to make sure it's fit for purpose. But the intent is that that 5G changes the game by basically allowing you, if you didn't already do so, to cut the cord in the factory, to actually take a machine that's relying on needs a very stringent SLA for the way it performs, relying on technologies like time-sensitive networking in manufacturing, and saying for the first time, we can put a guarantee or a warranty around cutting the cord and making that connection wireless. That changes the game, because it makes factories infinitely reconfigurable, not static production lines anymore, vital for short production runs in additive manufacturing, in other words, in industrial 3D printing, those kinds of applications. So I think, yes, absolutely, it can change the game.
Anyone else want to say something about this question? No? Okay, let's go to next question for, in this case, for Plamen. Plamen, is edge computing compatible with a declared enterprise-wide cloud strategy?
Yes, of course, I would say. As we discussed already, the game is hybrid. And for this reason, there is no contradiction with having a cloud strategy, public cloud strategy, because this is the case for so many applications, let's say SAP, which are running centrally. Whether you run them in your own IT centrally or in, this is just a matter of choice. And on the other hand, I've been working with several companies which not only have a cloud strategy, but they have also cloud strategy for the different areas with different clouds. Most of the company have even multi-cloud strategy. Sometimes for after sales, one cloud provider, and for another for manufacturing related central workload. And this is, from the practical perspective, the combination is really very practical. Let's take, for example, the data which you collect. Let's say collecting data at a pace of 10 milliseconds. How much data is this producing over a day from one robot, for example? If you, for example, analyze or simulate or analyze and predict the movements, for example, for analyzing of potential robot collision. If you take this, then how long do you need this data? Maybe a few weeks, maybe a few months, mostly. And then what do you do with this data? You throw it away. Imagine the way that you collect the data, potentially maybe over a very quick channel, if possible, you collect it in the cloud. So you pay for the transfer to the cloud and then throw this data away. Isn't this wasted money and effort and even CO2 CO2 footprint? So in this case, this is a very, very native thing that, of course, the factory edge is the last mile to the machine floor. And based on this, it provides a secure, but also filtered, aggregated way, and prevents wasting resources and wasting data, and of course cost for analyzing data. Normally, you have a window of data, maybe of some months, which you keep on the edge. And afterwards, of course, you send this to the cloud for central workload and also for the sake of regulation, for example, you have to keep some data. And on the other hand, for the cross-factory comparison. So it is, again, a play with the both platforms. And of course, dedicated cloud strategy is even helpful for implementing digitization in manufacturing together with factory edge.
I would also add, cloud, it's not really to consider as a destination where you're going to, it's kind of experience you want to have, right? So even if you have an enterprise-wide cloud strategy, you have to question, what does this mean? Does it mean you want to have all your data apps and stuff in the public cloud? Is this really what you want? Or you don't just want to have the cloud-like experience? So you want to be able to consume services, you pay as you grow, you want to be flexible, you want to be fast, and you want to have self-services and stuff like that. And today there are a lot of options to consume this on site as well. So you don't need to go to the public cloud to have a cloud experience. So you can consume this as an edge, being it the edge cloud, being it other options like our HP GreenLake solution engagements or stuff like that. So there are a lot of solutions on the market where you can deploy cloud computing at the edge.
Thank you, Plamen and Johan. Johan, the next question is even for you. What trends are you seeing in the edge computing?
So I'm seeing coming back a little bit from this industrialization of this edge computing, and I see the biggest trend is that when you start to scale, that you need to manage all these amounts of data, and that's what we're seeing as a trend of many customer engagements that we are currently working on, where customers are struggling with point-to-point connections, so they have deployed some kind of gateway to connect at the edge to data or devices and machinery, and then send this data, for example, from this gateway directly to the cloud in the first POC cases, which is pretty fine, as Plamen already explained, because it's fast and flexible. But then you have a lot of point-to-point connections and you need to manage. And if you scale, they grow exponentially. And that's really a big challenge that you need to address. You need to start implementing some kind of streaming solutions of bus systems or stuff like that, or how we call it, the data-centric architecture, where you put the data at the center of what you do, and then manage where to keep your data, how to transport your data, get rid of the duplicates and stuff like that. So that's a big trend when scaling those kind of edge computing solutions.
Thank you, Johan. Next question is for Ido. Ido, where do you see the fit for mobile, 4G, 5G, edge computing for Industry 4.0?
Okay, so this is like, many times it's like the $1 million question, because edge computing was the standards, and the MEC were defined, and when you come to reality, everybody are looking for the killer application, for the perfect use case, and when it comes to reality, many times it's not that easy. It's very challenging. And there are many verticals that the edge computing can go. One of them is Industry 4.0, and now we are talking about Industry 4.0. So for sure, if there's a factory that is working with each machine has its own PLC connected with a cable to some central place that supply the PLM, the ERP, the MES, all these control system with some level of dashboard, the chance to put in edge computing is almost impossible. Usually, no one will change what is working good, okay? However, what are the places that I do see some potential of bringing the edge computing? First of all, when someone is building a new factory. So when you build a new factory, you would like to consider an option of having a whole mobile edge computing, wireless connection, okay, for mobile edge computing. And especially if maybe one of your machines is mobile, okay, maybe you have an issue of distances. So this is something that you should consider, the alternative between putting cables anywhere by putting a 5G and using the mobile edge computing. Another option that I see that might be relevant for Industry 4.0 to use 5G mobile edge computing is warehouses. And the reason for that, because in your warehouses, you will have more and more many AGVs, which stands for the autonomous guided vehicles, or AMRs, which is the mobile robots. So all these robots which are autonomous and going around, they need low latency, they must have high reliability, and this is something that 5G edge computing can deliver, okay? The third option that I think might be relevant is outdoor, because one of the major advantages of 5G is the lack of sensitivity to outside interferences compared to other wireless solutions. And this makes it ideal for outdoor activities. So these are the three options that I see as a sweet spot for the mobile edge computing for Industry 4.0.
Thank you, Ido. Next question for Andy. Andy, what do 5G telecom operators need to learn to address the manufacturing sector?
Yeah, I think there has been, you need to understand where telecom operators are coming from. So it's radically different to address the specific needs of an enterprise customer compared with building a consumer nationwide mobile network serving tens of millions of consumer customers. So that system integration DNA is lacking a bit in the telco world. So there's definitely room for specialists to play in that space, possibly in partnership with the telcos. So I think as well, just the intimacy you need with your customer to understand, very much like Jochen was saying, the data landscape. So a data-centric architecture is very relevant here, and I think I really agree with what Jochen was saying. So there are new opportunities, new revenue generating opportunities for telcos, not just beyond connectivity, but they will find it a crowded space with expertise coming from different directions to compete with in that space. One example, not every manufacturer will have the in-house data science skills that are needed. Especially for the whole life cycle management of data pipelines in the manufacturing sector. So there is a trend that kind of goes on top, and it's a bit like Plamen was saying. It's not just doesn't stop at the cloud infrastructure. It's the platform as a service and on top. What is that platform doing? Well, it's distributing data models that are created on cloud and deploying them on edge, and giving you more of a kind of a zero code, non-programming skill set, non-data science skill set operator can create data pipeline models and then deploy them. That's the vision, so that this can really scale, even for smaller manufacturers who are never going to have a team of an army of data scientists. This is a very rare and scarce skill set. And if you can actually productize it and build it into a kind of a GUI model, that's some of the space that I'm working in right now with a startup based here in Europe, for example, is creating that kind of capability. So just to bring it back to the question, so telcos could play in that system integration space, could be generating models that are consumed by less skilled teams, and providing an extremely important new role in the value chain in that way. It's quite far away from their core competence and assets. It's just not going to be about spectrum, wireless spectrum being a license to put yourself into the value chain. You need to demonstrate your value beyond those basics. So that would be my message for my ex-colleagues in the tier one mobile network operator.
Thank you, Andy. Next question. Plamen, how do I scale with Edge?
Yes, there are several ways. First of all, I mentioned in the infrastructure as a service which we use underneath, we have the appliance, the data center, and of course the cloud and Mac infrastructure as options. And even in the appliance, we go from different t-shirt sizes, from XSS up to L, the different appliance sizes. Second, the scaling is also done. You actually balance the workload between cloud and the edge. I mentioned already about this window of data, which you need typically to do your operation, and then aggregate, filter, and send it to cloud for purposes which need more than the time frame and also more than this factory. And third, of course, this is something which is also done by the way how you implement and how you balance the workload. Of course, it is also related to the data. In this case, the workload which is possible to be run in the cloud, of course, you run in the cloud. And the workload which you need within the factory for the mentioned already purposes, latency, security, cost saving, regulation, for example, an auto OEM uses vehicle identification numbers, and for cars which are in pre-production, they are not allowed to leave the factory, for example. This is just by regulation. So in this case, these are the different approaches, and maybe one small thing which we also use by standardization. So we can grow between the different sizes in hardware within the appliance sector by using the same components.
Thank you, Plamen. Let me see. Question for Johan. Where do you see the biggest challenges in edge computing?
So the main biggest challenge is really to get started at all. So that's the number one hurdle that everyone needs to take, start working with the edge computing. And yeah, as I explained, you have to get hands on your data and manage and use data governance, security, and stuff like that to manage all your data. But I think really when it comes to scaling, it's about getting enough resources to deploy it, being able to manage the risk, and also to work on the business case as well. So there are a lot of aspects, also the people aspects of all those things, because if you're just deploying an edge computing, it's like if you have a production problem and you just put a robot in the middle. It probably doesn't solve your production problem, but will increase it very likely. So it's like using just deploying edge computing. It's really complex, and you have to consider the end-to-end digital journey that you are on with this mission. Yeah? So getting the business case, getting the people ready, getting the technology ready, finding a partner who's able to serve you on a global scale if you are a global customer and things like that. Because when you have to, like I think Plamen said it before, to manage all those edge devices and deploy your algorithms to it and stuff like that, that gets really complicated at the edge. It's not like having hundreds of office sites connected to a central office network. That's still a challenge, but manageable. But if you're at the real edge, behind firewalls, in the manufacturing space where you have your separated air-gapped networks and stuff like that, then it gets complex. And it gets also complex from a service point of view, because if you deploy edge computing in a production site and you want to, for example, use traditional IT services for break fix, it probably doesn't work because the service technician might not have access to your factory site because he doesn't get the safety training before or things like that. So there are very small but complex steps that you need to consider when deploying such edge computing rollouts. So I suggest to work with partners like HPE for sure that can able to deal with those things and get the risk out of your projects, so you have the time and focus on your business outcomes and not taking care of a lot of infrastructure aspects.
Thank you, Johan. One more question for Ido. Which type of factories, plants will be the first to use edge computing?
Well, After I try to define the sweet spot that I see for Industry 4.0, the question is really which factories to approach first. Who are the factories or plants that consider themselves Industry 4.0 that are willing to go for this mobile edge computing? And I'm not considering myself as an Industry 4.0 expert. And funny, because it is a challenge, because some of the people are expert in edge computing, some of the people are expert in the Industry 4.0, and it's very hard to find people which are expert in both domains. I would say the following. There are many levels of improvement in a factory, okay? Many type of levels. And no doubt to install mobile edge computing that will, I would say, that should improve the efficiency of the factory is certainly at the top. It's at the top tier. There are many levels of improvement that should be done before you reach the level of changing the IT system of a factory into edge computing. I give you an example. If a factory still did not implement 100% procedure of working according to KPIs, okay? If you don't know how to work according to KPIs, like how many people to put on machine, which machines to change into robot, etc., so you don't need edge computing, okay? It will change nothing because you are still in a very basic. So certainly only on a very on a high level of efficiency, and would like to bring it to another level, so edge computing might be relevant. I have some rule of thumb that, for example, MES. So MES is one of the system, the manufacturing execution system, that usually if Industry 4.0 factory is using the MES, which is related to real time, that maybe you can come and discuss with him mobile edge computing, because he already on the level of really improving on a very high level the efficiency of the factory. So that's my understanding until now.
Thank you, Ido. Next question for Andy, and this is one important question in my opinion. What is the role of governments and the regulators to stimulate adoption of these technologies?
Yeah, okay. So the first and foremost, if you want to move to a wireless solution in your factories, then you need access to the fundamental resource, which is radio frequencies, spectrum. So either the spectrum is in the hands of a few, i.e. the mobile network operators, the public licensed spectrum, or there's now the rise of kind of light licensing or unlicensed models to gain access to spectrum. But it's a delicate balance, because one of the perceived and actual benefits of 5G is the protection of those spectrum assets and their immunity from interference, as Ido was saying. So if you move fully to an unlicensed model, like the traditional Wi-Fi model, then there's nothing you can do to stop any interferer in the, coming next to your factory and interrupting connectivity. So that balance needs to be controlled somehow, and that's the role of the government and the regulator in each of the markets. Similarly, I think governments are investing in test beds and trials here in the UK, very much so, to link industry with the connectivity players, like the cloud service providers, like the mobile network operators, to trial things. So a good example would be in my region, Siemens has deployed a smart factory for 3D printing. using VR and industrial IoT technologies in the additive manufacturing space, and that's really perfect for 5G because of the nature of 3D printing. It tends to be short production runs, very versatile, very agile, not a production line you build that must be rigid and static for the next 10 or 20 years. So I think government is proactively acting with tens of millions going into such test beds and trials over the last few years.
But still more from them is needed, I guess. Always. So we had also a question from Daniel that I saw that Andy already provided some answer. I will mention it just in case, Andy, you want to say something about that, or any other of you, of course. Daniel asked, edge computing allows gathering a huge amount of data. We have been speaking about data almost the whole session today. Also, that probably will eventually be sent to another server to be analyzed and used by a different set of users. Is the loss of important data a worry in this kind of project? And if you want to expand a little bit, or if you want to say something, or of course, Amen, Jochen, Ido, if you want also to provide your opinion.
Perhaps I'll invite others to comment rather than just repeating my answer that I wrote there.
Yeah, I think it's like with any technology project, there are challenges, yeah, and for sure, loss of data is a worry, but it actually depends on what data you have and what you're doing with this data. But there are technology answers to that, so being it a non-stop computing solution that is 100% transactional assurance, yeah. Like you do in the finance sector, you can apply in manufacturing as well, and you can also push this towards the edge. And on the other side, you have streaming solutions that also can really provide a pretty good, well, if not close to 100% availability of your data today. So you really need to look at your use case and then deploy the right technology there.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks. Next question for Plamen. Plamen, there is not so much, even sometimes no IT in the factories, while Edge is bringing IT to down. How can they deal with it?
Yes, indeed, Federico. I have met also companies and factories which are with no IT, really. And of course, there is somebody who is caring about the OT technology, the automation, of course, and maybe about some workstations. The SAPs or ERP central, but everything else is non-IT supported. And this is, of course, something which, again, the edge computing and the way how it is designed comes into into work. Because typically the OT people, the automation people, are used to replace something. So if you have a problem with an PLC, then it is just replaced and everything's going on. So this is almost the attitude, even if there are so much more IT, of course. I mentioned the structure of the factory edge, but this is also the attitude for it. And also we provide management of this platform. Of course, it is a little bit funny to claim company like German Edge Cloud to provide a worldwide presence with this full stack. And now it comes to the fact that we are leveraging at the different levels, different capabilities in a 1 to 3 level standard support model. So first of all, the infrastructure. Leveraging our sister company, Rito, of course, we have reached to all over the world. Rito has the promise of delivering in 24 hours at any point of the world their enclosures. So, of course, we are leveraging this capability for the hardware stuff. The second part, leveraging the platform is done by the Kubernetes, especially the OpenShift platform which we're using. And based on this, we provide the tool for partners who can do it. And these partners could be the in-house IT, it could be a central IT, I mean, for the customer. It could be also a partner who we are working with. It could be also even a small partner who is available on site and doing this. So it is also a play of collaboration, of cooperation, which enables also others doing business and providing service with this capability. And last but not least, the third level support is, of course, on the particular provider. For example, for the on-site industrial suite, provide we this third level of support. For the OT/IT integration, the appropriate partner who is providing it. For OpenShift, of course, this is Red Hat with their worldwide presence. So in this case, it is a cooperation play, and I think this is also, the edge is also one part of this new way of doing business, cooperation, and not only competition.
Thank you, Plamen. One more question for Jochen. Jochen, what would you recommend customers when implementing edge computing?
Yeah, it's similar what Plamen explained. It's like you need to work with partners here, because I think there is not the one size fits all blueprint solution on the market. We have a kind of North Star, which is our data-centric architecture for manufacturing, but it's not even a reference architecture. It's a kind of sample implementation and a North Star that you can use to walk with your projects with guardrails in a certain direction, I would say. And you need to work with partners, being it the customer as a partner, being it other vendors, and especially the on-site partners remotely, if you want to implement those projects. And that's one thing that I would recommend. The other thing is make really smaller steps. So have this kind of North Star approach, but start small. So I know in the OT world, especially, we have very long life cycles of 30, 40, 50 years sometimes for the machinery equipment. But still, what we are doing in our projects, we are applying agile principles, where we foster smaller steps, faster feedback, open architectures, and stuff like that, because it still makes sense if you want to implement this kind of complex projects. And so this is also one thing I would really recommend. Start small and then make incremental steps, and always check where you are and what might be the next step that might make sense to work with. And finally, really have also your business case ready, because from my experience, those kinds of projects provide the chance of getting huge benefits out of it. But on the other side, you typically need some certain amount of invest to do so.
Thank you, Jochen. One question for Andy. Andy, who will best serve the edge computing needs of manufacturing telcos? Cloud service providers, system integrators?
So I think that there is a chain of value here, and it's not one or the other. But I think the crucial thing is the role of, let's call them a system integrator, but somebody who will have the resources to understand the business problems of the customer and turn those into a solution that is tailored. Now, I don't mean completely bespoke. So I think there is a Pareto point, 80-20, so that you're leveraging very standard architectures. We spoke about OpenShift, Kubernetes, all of these kinds of things. But then on top, you're putting some delta on top, which is for that specific vertical industry, manufacturing in this case, and then even more specifically for that specific customer. Telcos and cloud service providers struggle to have that depth of specialized SI skills in-house, and they know that they need to partner for that. So that's where this ecosystem comes into play, and creating that ecosystem is so important.
Thank you, Andy. Well, and this is a question I am asking to all of you, to all the speakers, any final points, any final statement, any final message that you would like to make about whatever we have been speaking today about the edge computing, about 5G, about whatever you want, let's say starting with Ido. Any final message?
Well, my final message is that edge computing finally is arriving. Maybe slow, but slowly it can get in. I think it will not, dominate the whole market. There will be certainly places that it will add value, but the public cloud is here to stay and will still have the majority, the way I see it, of the market. But there are places that the edge computing, whether it is private network, a cloud edge computing, or mobile edge computing, that will have their own use cases that they are going to be essential.
Thank you, Ido. Plamen, your final statement, final message, final comments.
I think that we all are sure that technology is there. There is cloud, there is 5G, there is, of course, edge. And it is a matter of combining this technology in order to implement use cases. Sometimes it's really funny when I hear, where are the use cases? Use cases are enough. Just to give you an anecdote, in retail, when we did the first time, the factory managers told us, I don't want to hear any more about AI and machine learning. I would like to be able to trace my product during the production on the line. This basic demand is not satisfied in, I would say, 90% of the factories around the world. So we are dreaming about AI, but did not provide the basic requirements of a factory manager and of the workers. So stop the ideology, do architecture. By providing the right architecture and doing the implementation based on this, not architecture per use case, but one architecture for any use cases, then you will be successful, and even in shorter time than expected.
Thank you, Plamen. Jochen, your final statement, your final message?
Yeah, absolutely agree to this architecture statement. So it's really have an architecture for your data, especially for scaling. You should have an architecture for your platform, because you don't want to start implementing those use cases as kind of silos. What we are seeing quite a lot in the market, where they put together a team that gets a hardware and software stack to solve a specific use case, and then another team, another use case, and then you get a mess that doesn't work and scale at all. So it's nice for playing around with it, but focus on the architecture, focus on the scaling right early, but still start small, make small steps, and then grow with that. But always have a North Star, a kind of architecture and things in mind where you want to go to.
Andy, you are closing this, let's say, last message or last statement thing here. So,
yeah, I think I liked Plamen's message from the shop floor. Let's make things meaningful. Let's apply architecture to real business problems in this industry. And I think that the other thing I would say, just in closing, is we need to demystify edge computing, because it means almost a different thing for everyone who uses the terminology. But there is a role at the edge of the manufacturing environment to protect the perimeter, maintain data sovereignty for that customer, but allow that customer to safely leverage cloud. technologies and bridge the gap between the IT environment and the OT environment. So all of those things are part of the architectural landscape, but we need to make those meaningful and solve real business problems, as Plamen was saying.
Thank you, Andy, and of course, thank you, all of you. So that was the last question in this very interesting digital event. Thank you all for joining us today. We hope that all of you enjoyed it. Special thanks, of course, to our 4 great panelists, Ido, Andy, Jochen, Plamen. Really amazing sharing the panel with you all today. Now, my colleague Benedikt Grütz, Vice President of the European Senate of Economy and Technology, should be here to provide you a little present in the name of the EUTEC. He's not. So I am going to try to do it myself. Let's see if I can share my screen right now in a correct way. I think yes, to provide you that small gift in the name of the EUTEC. As you know, the EUTEC, one of the main goals is the sustainability, and as a little gift for all of our speakers, always in all of our webinars, we used to plant a tree in Africa in order to reduce CO2 emissions and in order to have a better environment and a more sustainable development. So in the name of the EUTEC chamber, we are planting a tree in Africa for Andy Jones, another one for Jochen Moore, of course, one more for Ido Gur, and another one, the last one for Plamen Kirajev. So, guys, thank you again. Let me stop here. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for your great knowledge sharings, for your experience sharing here today. To the audience, again, thank you for being here. I invite you all to be there in our next event that will be on May 11th. On May 11th, we are going to have a very big, let's say, expo summit, not only Manufacturing Alliance, but also IoT, also mobility, also digital transformation. We are all together going to have a very big summit in where all of you are invited to join for free. I will provide in social media more information about that in the next days after the Easter holiday. So wish you all happy holidays and of course good health. Thank you for being there and hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.